please give a warm welcome to Glenda Harrison and Giselle Saatchi.
I want you to kind of tell the ladies about some of the things, like your biography, working with Chico and so forth.
I started my blog when I was 46 years old, after I had done a nonprofit organization in memory of my mother called A Daughter's Heart. My mother had passed away from pancreatic cancer, and she meant the world to me. And I need to go back a little bit further. Do you mind? Where my journey began? Okay, I'll start in 2008. So in 2008, I was wanting to become a writer because my passion has always been, all my life, in writing and in fashion. And so I didn't know how to become a writer. I didn't know anybody who could publish my work or anything. So lo and behold, my husband and I get invited to a Christmas party, and the party just happened to be for a publisher for a newspaper. And so he was taken to me, and he invited me to be a style columnist for his newspaper. And he gave me a weekly column, and every week I would write about fashion, and I got to go to all these great events and meet designers, and it was just fabulous. I was living my dream. Well, about 6 months into writing for this publisher, he decided that he wanted something more from me. And it wasn't just the writing. He wanted me to be his girlfriend. And it was a horrible experience. And I didn't know what to do with myself, because here I am doing what I've always wanted to do, write about fashion. And I didn't know how to keep doing it without this person making his continual advances toward me. And so I kept doing it, and he kept flirting and so forth. And in 2008, if you remember, my husband was he was working as a mortgage lender, and that's when the market crashed. And so not only was I dealing with the flirtations of this man, but our family was in financial turmoil, and so many things were happening. And so I couldn't take it, and I thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to end it. I'm going to end it. So I was parked at an overlook in the city that I lived in, and I thought to myself, you know, I'm going to just step on the gas, and I'm going to just let my car drive over this cliff, and that'll be the end of it for me. But as I was sitting there getting ready to turn the ignition on, this young guy pulled up on the side of me, and I suddenly stopped because I thought to myself, okay, well, I don't want this young guy to be a witness to this. So I turned off the car, and I was just sobbing uncontrollably. And then I heard like this very soft voice, and it said, I have something great for you. So I went home to my husband and my boys, and they were just enjoying the swimming pool and just enjoying life. And I finally told my husband what was going on with the publisher. And so I resigned my post, and then I started the nonprofit in memory of my mother. I did that for about 5.5 years, I think it was, Lois. My best friend is her. So for about 5.5 years, I did this nonprofit. And before I did that, I kind of just always was dealing with low self-esteem. They started this thing from scratch. And on the final event, we had this huge fundraiser called Jazz to the Heart. And I looked out, and there were just hundreds of people in this room that I was speaking to about this fundraiser. And then I realized at that point, there was something so much more to me than what I always thought. And so after I did A Daughter's Heart, I knew I had buried my mother in my heart. And I told my husband that I wanted to go back into writing and fashion. And that's when I started my blog, So What to 20. I call it So What to 20 because the fashion industry has always had this great love for women in their 20s while ignoring those of us who are in the vibrant age of 40, 50, 60, and beyond. And so that's why it's called So What to 20. And before I know it, I just started getting hits and followers and all the things that excite people who are in the blogging world. And today, this young lady here in the orange came up to me and said, "Oh my goodness, I've been wanting to meet you." And every time that happens to me, I'm like, I don't believe this is happening. That is so cool. So anyway, that's the story. That is crazy.
So, one thing I like about the book, I like the vibrancy of the color and everything else, but I love the message in here. I love the title, True Style. You have this book, it's amazing. When you were writing it, was there any difficulty in writing your book?
Well, yeah, it was a little bit difficult to write the book because most people believe style is simply what you're wearing. And I think it's easier to understand it in that context. So we just keep it at that one-dimensional level of just simply what we have on, when in fact style is an essence. It's an internal essence that some people just possess. And so when I wrote that book, it was trying to figure out how to explain something that really can't be seen, but to make it more visual so that people could understand it. And so rather than me using pictures from my blog, I found an illustrator, and she's phenomenal. So with each chapter, I would write it, and then she would translate the message that I was trying to say with the illustration. And so it's a more, just like the book is titled, True Style, Look Beyond the Surface. It goes down deep into what the meaning of style truly is.
Now, I know throughout our lives we make bad decisions, correct?
Yes.
What some bad decisions did you make throughout, and how did you overcome them?
Well, I've made, and I don't like to say that they're bad decisions anymore. I think it's because regardless of the decision that I made, whatever road I took or path, whatever, it ultimately turned out to help me develop into the woman that I am today. I mean, you could say continuing to write after the advances, but then I look back at it and I say, well, shoot, while that man was busy flirting with me, I was up in his office like figuring out how to do press releases and all these other things that benefited me in the long run. So I don't like to say that my decisions were bad, because if I take any part of those decisions away from me, then I feel like a piece of the mosaic will be missing.
So when it comes to it, sounds like your road was direct and smooth, but getting to the place where you are now, is kind of start with your journey. But can you tell us a little bit more on how we got to the blog and more so with the experience and trying for that blog to get those other influencers involved? Because you have quite a bit of, she posted a bit on there on her blog, and it was like a bunch of her friends and social media friends were responding. How did you get to that point?
Okay, I'll tell you, the world of blogging is not an easy world. There's a lot of competition, especially the fashion industry, and especially to women in midlife, trying to represent a brand, and you're silver-haired, African-American, 5 feet tall, curvaceous. Yeah, right. So I'm writing this blog, and it takes about a year or so for anybody to even see it. You think you hit the publish button and then, hey, there's followers. It's not like that. With any job or with any entrepreneur business, you have to put yourself out there and you have to network, and there's a lot of things that I had to figure out, because when you come from a world of publishing like a newspaper onto publishing online, it's a whole different ballgame. So I had to learn about Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all these other things that I just thought, oh brother. But, without those things, you just really cannot be a blogger. So, like I said, it took about a year before somebody even noticed me. I wrote a story called Stupid Fashion Lovers. And when I wrote that article, it just started spreading all over the internet.
When you said that would have got my attention.
Yeah. And what that story was about was the idea that people think people who are fashion lovers are kind of dipsy, airheaded people. When in fact, the people who run these big corporations, my goodness, like Anna Wintour, Vogue, these women are some of the most dynamic women you would ever meet in your life. So it was kind of like, look, we're not stupid. We're very smart, intelligent women, and we know how to play the game. So I wrote that article, and that's how the ball started rolling. And I just over months and time, it just grew, and it just turned into this big snowball. And then I was invited to speak last year at this time at a conference in Las Vegas. And one of the big sponsors was Chico's, the clothing store. I knew that they were one of the sponsors, and I didn't think anything about it. And so I'm there at the conference, nervous, like I always am before I have to speak, not thinking about Chico's or anything else. Every morning, though, when I would walk into the conference, I would look at my Twitter, and Chico's would say, "Good morning, Glenda." And I'm like, why are they being so nice to me? They're sitting right over there. What do they want from me? So they were giving out swag. I went over to their table and picked up my swag. And I put on the glasses they were giving out. And the PR rep said, "Glenda, you look wonderful in those glasses. You look better than anybody here." And I thought, oh, girl, please. So they were being really nice to me. So at the end of the conference, she gives me her card, and she goes, I think we need to collaborate. So give me a call when you get back to your office. And I did, and I told my family, they were there with me in Vegas, and I just could not believe it. So when I got back home, they were like, Glenda, we really like your look, you're unique, we think you'll really speak to the Chico's customer and so forth. And so the next thing I know, I get a year's supply of clothes just sent to me every month, brand new clothes. And I'm writing about it on the blog. And then just 2 months ago, I ended up doing a YouTube commercial for Chico's, selling their blue jeans and some other things that I've done for them. And there's been other brands too, but Chico's has been the one that has really just been like pro Glenda. And so that's how the collaboration part of it goes. I guess that's it. Did I answer the question?
So, back to your book. What would be the chapter in there that's most precious to you that you definitely want someone to, if they were kind of breezing through the book and if they could get to a certain part of the book, what would be the chapter that would be the impactful chapter?
Probably the final chapter when it sums it all up, and it talks about having an integrated life. Is that the favorite? Either being unique, or the final chapter where it talks about having an integrated life. And it just wraps it all up together, and it puts that woman or that man, and it explains the character that person would have, and the way they view style and fashion and so forth. Because it's not just about, oh, that's the latest trend, let me run out and get that dress. Now I'm in style. There's a difference between being in style and having style.
Any other questions that anyone have out there in the audience?
Hello, nice to meet you. My question is more, since you touched earlier on the whole, in the area of your life where you were at that cliff and you were hopeless, and I don't know about you all, but I've been there. And is it still a constant struggle for you? Does it ever get better as far as confidence? You just finished saying, I'm not that confident, but you're in a position now, you're a blogger. And is it still a constant struggle for you, and will it ever get better?
It got better for me when, and okay, I'm going to tell you guys something, but I don't want you to think, okay, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, this is what I had to do. I became I felt bad about myself for a specific reason, okay? I had two parents, my mother and my father. My mother was very loving, of course. I loved her, and then she left, right? She passed away from pancreatic cancer. I have my father. I adore my father, but my father, for some reason, saw me as someone he just didn't favor. I have an older sister, and he favored my older sister more. And so I didn't start to really recognize that until I became more like around 12 or so forth. So that's when the low self-esteem started. When I decided that I no longer wanted to be that person on the cliff, I said to myself, there are going to be people that I can no longer have in my life. And he was one of those people. I keep him at a distance. He still is somewhat of a grandfather to my sons. My husband still talks to him, but I can't talk to him. It's not that I don't love him, but I need to not be around people at this point in my life who are complete dream squashers. Because I want to be a person that my sons look at and say, you know what, my mom did her thing. She did it. At the age of 51, I used to be ashamed of that. Like, you know, these women are 20 and they're doing these things, and I'm 51, okay? But now I'm like, yeah, I'm 51. So what? So what, right? That's what my blog is called, So What? So you can get better, but the key to this whole topic and trusting your journey is to believe in you. And I didn't believe in me, but now I believe in me, okay?
And that's such an issue between any age group. I mean, there's a lot of self-esteem issues, and why is that? It's very hard to kind of pinpoint what that is. We go through things in life. I have a friend that's just like me. We've been through similar situations, and I'm totally opposite from, and I don't know, you know, how you know, were able to kind of get to that next level. I know you wrote a lot, I know you did your blog and everything, but what really made you kind of get to that, what kicked it off, to speak?
Well, I realized, you know, I think it all began when I did A Daughter's Heart. Because what I discovered was that when you have a great pain, you need a greater purpose. And so by doing A Daughter's Heart, it took the focus off of me and it put it on to women who were dealing with cancer. And
your mom died of cancer?
Yes, my mother died of pancreatic cancer, and it was 6 months. And the thing is, my mother was very healthy and athletic. She ran marathons for a hobby. And then it took her out just in 6 months, and she didn't even know that anything was wrong. So it was devastating. But when it was at the A Daughter's Heart fundraiser, when I looked out into the audience when I was getting ready to give my speech, and that's when the light bulb started coming on. It was like, okay, Glenda, you had an idea and you went with it. The community, your friends, all gathered around you. There's a complete room of people out here who I don't know, but they're here supporting this cause. And so that's when I said, you know what? I'm pretty all right. Yeah, so
That was your aha moment.
That was my aha moment.
Yeah, my aha moment when I turned 30. Remember, I'm 20, but you know, I'm celebrating the anniversary. When I got 30, I was more so, I learned to say no real quick. Because I used to be a pleaser, so I told her that's where you're coming from. Now, in terms of with A Daughter's Heart, what made you transition from The Daughter's Heart, A Daughter's Heart?
Okay, well, I felt like, and I know it was so hard for people to understand this, because how can you shut down something that's doing so beautiful in the community? And I did because I knew that I had buried my mother in my heart. And some people may not understand what I mean by that, but it was like I knew my mom was gone now, but she would forever be with me in my heart. And she would want me to do what I have always loved, and that was fashion and writing. She would have wanted me to do that. And so when I told my friends that, I'm like, it's good. It's good. It's time for Glenda to go on and be Glenda. And so, okay, so while I was doing A Daughter's Heart, I was working at this horrible little job, right? It was a little desktop, and I couldn't stand it. And I had this reoccurring condition with my heart called tachycardia. And tachycardia was just all the time. Is it time, Joe? So tachycardia was attacking me like crazy while I was on this job. So I went to the hospital, I had surgery, they couldn't correct the problem. And then, so this little job fired me. And I thought, oh my God, thank you. I hated that place. So my husband, driving home, and I said, they fired me. And he said, oh, you know what, don't worry about it. We're gonna be fine. And lo and behold, my husband just gets all these jobs doing sound. And that's when I started my blog, when, they fired me. And I just said, well, I just feel like that's a sign from God. I'm supposed to be doing what my mom wanted me to do. And that's what I did.
To wrap up, anything else you want to share with the women about your book and about what's next? What's next after?
I don't know what's next. I really don't. I think Joe asked me that question once, like, what's next? I don't know. I really don't. I just kind of am doing my blog and writing and just enjoying the people who read my blog. My goodness, the comments are so fun. I don't know what's next. I'm speaking, I think, in Pasadena. I think that's November. I just take it as the day comes.
There you go. That's what we got to do. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for coming out. It's a true blessing to have you here today. And continue on with the good things you're doing. We're going to collaborate more, and we're going to connect you with a lot of women to kind of do some things. That's what this is what the Expo is about, is to get together, network. We have Laura, who talked earlier. We need to connect and really do some wonderful things out there and bring some insight. Because we're so busy, it's time for us. This year, I want to make sure that you guys, you're taking care of yourself first, because you can't take care of anybody else unless you take care of yourself first. Just remember that, okay?